We appreciate you giving us your Saturday morning. And this is the EastNet Packet Users Group, but we're kind of a diverse, it's really an EastNet data communications group. A lot of the topics that we cover are not just limited to packet radio. I'm Brian Webster, N2KGC. I'm in Cooperstown, New York, and the EastNet president. Ted, go ahead with your introduction.
Okay, and my name is Ted, K1YON, the Vice President, located in northern Connecticut.
And Don, go ahead with your introduction.
I'm K1CMM, sysop for W1EDH, and I'm located in the center of the state in Portland, Connecticut.
All right, I'll go around and do the rest of them. Chuck, you're next on my screen here.
All right, Chuck, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. Have a BBS with a HF and Arden port on it.
Very good.
Oh, and I forgot to say I'm the Secretary Pro Tem.
You're the Secretary Permanent.
Well, it seems that way, but officially it's Pro Tem.
All right, Wayne, VRF, you're next on my screen here.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Everybody else on the group this morning. Wayne, KA1VRF, Greenville, Rhode Island. And I'm still working on trying to get the network up in North Smithfield. And Ted, I'll be talking to you about that hopefully in the next week or so.
Okay, sounds good.
Misko, good morning. Well, it might be good afternoon for you, isn't it? We don't have any audio for you. Your mic's a little weak here.
Wrong audio source.
There you go. No,
that's me. Wrong audio source, Misko. It sounds like we're connected to your radio rather than your microphone.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Misko. Good morning, Pat. WB2 CMF.
Good morning, Pat. WB2 CMF. I'm located in the center of the Long Island, and I'm the sysop for my own node, WA2PNU, W2KPQ, and I help out with a few others.
You help out with a lot of nodes and a lot of guys, including our XNet and FlexNet and URO node and all that stuff. Glenn, N3MML or N3MEL. My lips will get into me. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Glenn, N3MEL in southeastern PA, just a little bit west of Philly, and run a full BPQ node and BBS here, along with the Eastern Hub station for TPE RFN.
And I assume it's raining because you're on the call. So,
well, it wants to. It's not, but it's hasn't yet.
Trying to do that here. I got my lawn mowed last night for that reason. All right, Ron, KB5LNC. Good morning.
Excuse me a minute. Glenn, I don't see your location in the chat. Would you add that to it, please?
It says southeastern PA in there, but I just abbreviated it, but I'll put it in.
Oh, okay. I thought that was an organization you belong to. No sweat. I got it.
Okay.
Ron, KB5LNC. Good morning. How about an introduction?
Hey, Ron, KB5LNC. I'm in traffic just north of Richmond on my way to North Carolina today. Normally live in Fredericksburg area in Virginia. I have a new hobby. Settling into my father-in-law's estate, which happens to be in Bladenboro, North Carolina, which I don't live there, but I might be looking to set up a node or a station there that might fill in where you looks like you have a gap. But I'll talk with Glenn N3MEL and kind of see, because it's not something that I'd be there permanently, so it'd have to be something that I could set up and work remote. But anyway, I think that's enough for now, and traffic's opening up, so I'm going to go on silent unless you need me.
Great. Well, we would, I'm sure Glenn would welcome you if you guys can make something work out. So awesome.
Ron, where's your physical location, not your mobile location?
Yeah, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Thank you.
Yeah, Alan, NAWQ, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Brian and the group. I live in Pike County, which is southern Ohio, and my BBS is running on 144.91. And I'm kind of like the lone ranger out here in the wilderness, you might say. Just have one forwarding partner in Athens, W8 KVK, and that's about it. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Brian, he spells his name right. W1BKW. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Brian here in Peru, Maine. Listening and learning on the packet side, playing around a little bit with Arden and 44net stuff with Charles and things. So
Well, you've got a lot of people here with knowledge for that if you need it. So good morning. And of course, Charles, let's have an introduction.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Charles Hargrove, Antonio V, Staten Island, New York City. Yes, the crazy place. It's all right. I may move out of here, but I'm a little tied down while the wife is still taking care of her 89-year-old mother. Believe it or not. But let's see, president and founder of New York City ARIX, the MCOM group for New York City, and 44net coordinator for the call areas 1, 2, and 3. And of course, I get rented out every so often to people in other call areas who ask for help. So, like I said, I get around on.
And then in honor of Brian Wilson passing this past week, that's a good Beach Boys reference. There we go. And all of us here are old enough to know that reference. So there we go. All right. Let's see. Glenn, let's put you right up on top of the list. How about a TPRNF RFN update and start the meeting off?
That sounds good. Thank you for having me this morning, and I'm semi glad I'm here. It's always good to be with the group, but I am surely behind in my summer small business work here due to weather. It's just been absolutely horrible. So, oh well, what are you gonna do? Not a whole lot going on with the network here recently. Been dealing with my father passed away a couple of months ago, and been dealing with the family and the estate and doing stuff, and I haven't spent a ton of time on the network, but it's up and running. It's doing very well. We're still at I think 16 stations, including 2 in Puerto Rico. Obviously, we're still looking for more, and trying to grow the network. There is I took my first stab at an article that's due to be it's going to be published should be next Friday, and 0 retries to start, and then it's also going to go to QST. I'm waiting on that because I know QST, once they get a hold of it, they're going to want to take property of it, and so I'm putting it out there in other places first. But
good plan.
We're looking to we're looking for more stations. We're looking to move further west, and with all the craziness going on all over the place these days, I think it's important that we have RF communications established, so, or better established.
Can you just tell everybody the 30-second elevator speech of what TPRFN is?
So what we're doing is we're running Vera HF. We run on 40 and 80 meters, and what we're doing is just we started out creating an RF backbone for packet, off of the internet, off of AXIP, and just having a way to communicate if we need to. We're set up in an NVIS configuration, so I don't need to communicate directly with the station in Texas. I can just need to communicate with my next partner in a compass direction north or south of me, or east and west. But I only have like 3 partners that I connect to from here in Pennsylvania, and the traffic just leapfrogs around the network just like it's designed to do. And we're bringing on stations that are willing to put up an HF station 24/7. But we also offer what we call a polling station, which is a station that can come and go as they choose. We just don't forward to those stations. If they want traffic from the network, they need to connect into one of the hubs and pull it down. So it works pretty well. It's doing good. It's come a long way in about, I guess, we about 3 years. Brian KA3 VSP and I kind of started it, and immediately Jeff KP3 FT got involved, and then it's kind of grown from there. So it's doing good. If you want to check it out on the website, it's tprfn.net, and a lot of good information there, including what's going on.
So yeah,
go ahead, Brian.
I want to add to your description because for the really, really newbies that don't understand what the whole concept is, this doesn't create a live link to other networks. It uses the BBS's hierarchical message forwarding format to use shared HF channels so that we can bridge geographically RF disconnected packet networks to move traffic around. It's not designed to be a live connect system. It's not designed to be a full-time system because our HF frequencies for unattended operations are limited resources. So Glenn and the group have put together a really nice system again, and he glossed over this, but he uses NVIS antennas. And NVIS means that you've got a 200 to 400 mile working radius on 40 and 80 meters so that you're not trying to skip all over the world and cover everything HF wise. You're just trying to cover your neighbor partners and your neighbors. The BBS systems, for those of you who didn't grow up in the old days of packet, they're designed to route the traffic. It's not real time, but it's only on RF, and it's only going to, it's going to get there eventually. And when everything else goes south, and if the internet goes down, or if they hit the internet kill switch with a denial of service on DNS systems, we can move traffic around. It's not going to be high speed, but it's going to be effective. And it's what he's doing is a real effective system. Go ahead, Glenn. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all good. So yeah, it does pretty well. We're using Vera FM, or I'm sorry, Vera HF as our transport layer, for a couple of reasons. One is that it in the MVIS system and with all the solar stuff that's been going on, Vera has the ability to connect and still operate. Yes, it slows down. It's not, as fast as it can be, but it still works even in these conditions where you're watching the waterfall and you can't even see the signal of the person you're connected to yet. It's moving data. It's got forward error control, so once the message is been delivered and Vera thinks it's been delivered, it's complete. So it adds some redundancy and some measures of making sure that the data is moving. We've added in after North Carolina, we did some rethinking about what we could offer, and most of the hub stations now also offer APRS gateway, RMS gateways, and we also offer APRS, SMS, and email short message stuff, all on the same frequency, all on using Vera HF, all running simultaneously across the network. So it's actually
interesting.
it's working pretty well.
Can you elaborate on that, like with the APRS messaging and stuff like that? Elaborate a bit.
So we've got ports up and running now on the back end, and I have an iGate using APRS 32, and it iGates. It also is on VHF on the back end here, and you can just connect in using N3MEL-6 if you'd like. and you could send using the normal APRS formatting, you can send an SMS message to a cell phone, or you can send an email. We don't run mapping, so we're not beaconing position reports all day long on the frequency. We're just receiving messages and putting them into the APRS network. So we have to.
How would that, and thinking about the Western North Carolina situation, how does that bring advantage to a communications isolation like they were last summer? How does that benefit things?
So in theory, what we'd hope to do is to allow, anybody that's a POTA operator that goes out with their HF rig and throws an antenna up in a tree, or an MPass vertical or something, and sticks it in the ground. What we're intending to do is give those people and those stations a place to send digital traffic and be able to get stuff in and out, whether obviously they didn't, they were missing electricity, they were missing internet, they were missing everything. Well, if they can connect to one of our stations somewhere in NVIS range of their location, then if we're connected to the network in any way, that gives them access to the services that they need all in one place. They don't have to be dialing around and looking and trying to figure out where there's a WinLink gateway, because their WinLink Express comes up and it's not connected to the internet. So they have a hard time finding an HF station to connect to. So we're trying to promote this and have everybody standardized on one frequency. I shouldn't say one frequency. We're actually on two bands, but everybody's timed and everybody changes at the same time. It's all UTC based, and so they have whatever access they need. Obviously, I love Packet and would love to be using Packet more, but not everybody understands it or knows how to use it. So we didn't want to exclude APRS or WinLink users.
No, I like it, and I think it just needs to be an education process, right? So what you're saying is, if someone is isolated and they aren't hearing regular VHF APRS traffic, they can get on HF to one of the TPRFN gateways, and they can use just the APRS messaging to get messages out because they already understand that, and you can use the APRS gateway to cell phones. You can use it to other APRS stations. I like it. I think an education process to the consumer end, meaning the average ham that just uses, I think that should be a big part of your article. It's nice because you're right. Our terrestrial packet network that we had in the 90s is just so segmented now that you don't know where it's going to go. The HF getting into the APRS stream, we know that that's pretty reliable, even though it's not high throughput and high capacity. I like it.
Yeah, and then the last thing we offer is we can take and transport NTS messaging, and I remember that because I see Jim just joined in here, KY2D, and I have a 40 meter and 80 meter HF link to him. So if NTS traffic comes into the network, we're not set up to physically deliver the message, but if it comes into the message, then I have a direct link to Jim in Maine, and I can put the traffic right into the national hub at his station from mine. So my station set up, change frequency, connect to Jim, deliver the message, and then come back to the standard frequency, all automated without anybody having to be there to do anything. And that's the beauty of BPQ. That's the flexibility. All of these things work because of BPQ and its driver stuff and the way that it controls your radio and everything else. That's the reason all these modes can work simultaneously.
Well, I think that it would be really good that if you write your article as an isolated user and not a node operator, how would you use this? How would you use this in emergency?
Well, I
And
think that's going to be article number 2.
okay,
The first one is an introduction to the network, getting it out there, getting it more exposure, basically what it does and how it does it. I did manage to get to almost 1,200 words, so it's got some information there.
uh-huh.
But I think this is the article 1, and then I'll follow it up. But it only took me 5 weeks to write the darn thing, and thankfully Steve Stroh and a couple others helped me out with it and with some editing and some ideas. But we got there, so
That's good.
Where will it
Yeah.
be available?
it's going to be on Zero Retries next Friday's edition. That'll be the first place. We'll probably send it to a couple of the other places, Ham Radio Newsline and a few of those other ones. But ultimately, I want to try to get it into QST, but with their rules and regulations, once they get a hold of it, I can't publish it anywhere else, or at least they want you to sign off on it. So we're doing we're getting it out and about first before I submit it to them.
Also,
It
they
won't
will
be on Group IO.
I could once it's out on Steve. Yeah, sure. I can put it on the groups. That's
That'd be
not a problem.
super.
No, that's a
Yeah,
good,
and
that's a good segue because he mentioned zero retries, and I'll mention it again. Yeah, for those of you on this group who aren't subscribed to the free Zero Retries newsletter, that's from Steve Stroh, and he's normally on this, but he's a West Coaster, so this Saturday morning meeting he misses most of the time. But it's a free newsletter you can sign up for. I admittedly don't have anything on my to tell you where to go to it, but you can Google it easy enough. It's a free newsletter. Sign up. It comes out every Friday religiously, and it is all kinds of chock full of information every week. And I would encourage everybody on this group. It's always relative to any data modes of communication, and it's also something that you get exposed to other things that you want to learn. All right.
Ryan, could you put it in the chat? Just
When I find it, I've got to find.
just the name of it and everything, so we can Google it.
Yeah, hang on. I probably got it in my email right now, or it almost looks like Glenn's probably doing it right now.
Hey, Jim, you've got your mic open.
Yeah, well, I'm going to Jim next, so he might as well leave it open.
All right.
Good morning, Jim. Welcome.
Morning, thank you. Didn't realize I accidentally had the mic open. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay, because I'm segueing to you next.
Sorry, I joined late. I lost track of the time, and
You didn't join that late. You only missed Glenn so far. So
all right. Well, as Glenn said, we're the Digital Traffic Network is very pleased that what Glenn's doing is routing any formal traffic out to the Digital Traffic Network. The other thing that's relatively new, again for the traffic handlers more than anything else, RRI and in collaboration with the ARL actually has developed a new classification of radiogram, a new precedence called the certified radiogram. And this can be used for radiograms where there's a reasonably good belief that it's the correct address, the correct phone number, or the correct email. And it's intended for messages to someone with whom the sender has an existing relationship. So this is not welcome to ham radio from a stranger. This is congratulations on passing your exam, a message sent from a volunteer examiner who has a relationship with the examinee. So that's being launched, and in conjunction with that, we're trying to address the last mile issue of how to get radiograms delivered. And although anyone can handle a certified radiogram, we're also coming up with a certified radio operator, certified radio operator program. And that involves some training, and once you're classified as a certified radio operator in the digital network, any message that's sent to certified message that's sent can be sent to a certified radio operator in a given state. And that person, in addition to the testing, is promising to make serious attempts to deliver the message in a very quick, short period of time. So I think those are the certified radiogram and certified radio operator program are the two big news things that I have to share, really.
That's awesome. I'm welcome and glad to have you here. Go ahead and give an introduction since you joined late, for anybody else that doesn't already know you.
Oh, thanks. I'm Jim, KY2D, formerly of New Jersey and West Virginia before that. Now in Maine, I'm on the board of Radio Relay International, and I run the Eastern Area Digital Traffic Network Hub, and also manage the other hubs, stations, hub operators, as Eastern Area Digital Manager for RRI. And also Section Traffic Manager under the ARRL for the state of Maine.
Very good, Jim. Can you do us a favor too? Don asked everybody to put their name, call sign, and location in the chat, so that goes as part of the meeting notes.
Sure, will do.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the update this morning. You're an important person. I wasn't sure if you were going to make the call, and I always like to get the RRI update as well as Glenn's updates. So,
well, thanks to Charles, I lost track of the time. I had intended to come. I got two messages tangled. There's another packet thing going on tonight at 7 o'clock, and I got the two tangled. Sorry about that.
And I just saw a note from Chuck, NC8Q. He would like more information on the certified radio operator. So
you can find it at Radio Relay, all one word, .org.
Got that, Chuck? All right. Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
And those of you who don't know, Chuck NC8Q is also one of the gurus in the Arden Mesh Network. So he's a great bridge from this packet group to all things Arden. And so if those of you who are interested in doing an Arden Mesh node or Arden Mesh system, Chuck is a huge resource for that. And so we're honored to have him in this group as well, because it's a cross-pollination of information we have quite a few people that have bridged their packet networks with some Arden connectivity. And so, yeah, and Arden Mesh, well, much like packet, it is RF, but because of the separate networks that aren't within RF range of each other, we do somewhat use the internet to bridge them. But we're working on as many ways as possible that we know how to get around when the internet is the part that breaks. So very good. Let's see. Charles, do you want to give some updates this morning?
Yeah, I could jump in on a few things, but like you said, everything is bridging to something else. The way Glenn's bridging things with the BPQ on HF, and Chuck and N2MH are doing with Arden. The thing is that no one system, just like computer operating systems, no one BBS format will survive on its own without having the ability to interface with everybody else. I mean, look at the history of the internet. What started off as an experimentation in a lab back in the late 60s. By itself, yeah, it was fun to play with and, learn a couple of things, but it really took its stride when all the different systems were able to talk to each other. Who remembers dial-up BBSs in the 80s?
Oh,
okay. Yeah. You would dial into it, you would leave your message for other people who were members of that one system. But if you on CompuServe, you couldn't talk to Delphi, you couldn't talk to Genie, you couldn't talk to any of them. I remember neighborhood dial-up BBSs that could only talk to each other until FidoNet came out. And FidoNet allowed them to transfer messages with each other at 2 o'clock in the morning. They used a type of routing system. Remember the node numbers, number/number? Okay, it's the same thing with packet and the internet and the old dial-up systems. You need to be able to talk to each other. And that's why, as Brian mentioned at the very beginning of this, about hierarchical addressing, just like the post office does it, just like internet email does it, you have to have this system where we know how to find each other in a structured, formatted way. So I'm glad to hear that, one, the Arden firmware now can work very well with 44net. On top of being able to work with PPQ, JNOS, FlexNet, we're finally breaking down these crazy barriers. Remember the formatting wars? All the flaming on the mailing list from 20, 30 years ago. Mine is better than yours. Screw it all. This all works together if we want it to work together. And I'm glad to see all these different pieces coming together.
Well, that's interesting because it makes resiliency in the network. Then it's left to the node operators. I'm thinking of Glenn here. I'm thinking of Chuck and everything like that. How do people, make the glue that binds these separate networks together and get the stuff routed and get the communications going? We also think like pretty soon we're going to have the golden packet information. That mountaintop to mountaintop along the Appalachian Trail, where they try to just put a network up and down the East Coast in case we ever need to. And so training people on how to do these things, to make these long haul connects, to get different regions to be able to talk to each other. So that's a great.
You just brought up the key word to this, the training, the education. Just reading a magazine article, just watching a YouTube video really doesn't cut it. I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I understand.
Yeah.
What was that?
Or
Antonio, you're not muted.
just to know how to use the program. Yeah.
Antonio, you need to mute your microphone, please.
Oops.
Okay. I understand. And to help us in doing these different things, we as mentors need to make ourselves available to help those who are just starting out or maybe making mistakes, something they don't know. We walk them through it. We test things out. Like right now, in case you haven't heard, VE1JOT, John, up in Nova Scotia, has been down for a few years. He's just bringing his system back up after he had a router upgrade. I believe he's working with WRT54G. He said that was able to do some stuff with 44net and VPN. So he's just starting to get his thing back together now. I told him about the meeting, but I don't see that he's here. So what I'm going to be spending the rest of the day is helping him get his system back on the air and the traffic flowing properly. So it's the helping each other out so that we don't feel isolated. We don't feel like we're banging our head against the wall, that we're actually working together. That, I think, is the big thing. Jim already covered the RRI stuff. Jim and I are going to talk later on today about the the automatic routing of the NTS traffic through the packet system so it gets to him in the different hubs properly with this new precedence. So a lot of things going on, but we got to work together.
That's interesting. Can I throw a comment in here, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck. Or Glenn. Absolutely.
So one of the things that I've been stressing to people as we bring them on board, everybody thinks that, they have to be directly connected to our network, which is totally untrue. No matter what system you're running, no matter where you are, we have Arden in our network as well. I'm connected to Chuck, connected to Mark, and to MH. But anybody that has access anywhere to a connected bulletin board print, for instance, we'll just use Packet for example. The same with WinLink, I guess. But if they're connected in any way, whether it's AXIP, whether it's Arden, whether it's RF, whatever, they're an ad hoc station to our network, whether they know it or not, because whatever traffic they send ends up here and gets forwarded across our network in some way, shape, or form. So, people that think they're isolated, but they're really not. And that, as you said, is part of the education part of
Well,
this.
and that brings up an interesting statement that just popped into my head. We can look at the hierarchical messaging on the BBSs as one of the original router systems, one of the original managed routing systems before the internet came up, because that's exactly what they do. And now it's just routing messages and email type traffic. It's not a full-time connected system. And I think we probably, between all of us in another article, we need to create a good graphic that gets that to people that have only known the internet. We're all old enough that we know what these things are doing because we were around before the internet, before a full-time connected, before everything was based in a web browser.
Our generation invented it, Brian.
What's that?
I said our generation invented all this stuff.
Right.
What's going to happen to these young kids when we're gone?
Right. Well, and the problem is that we've got to bring them up, the incremental learning. You're always going to hear me mention that. So everything that we talk about with WinLink, with RI, with TPRFN, with Arden, and with the old JNOS and TCP/IP stuff that we did back in the day when it was only the internet, we've got to incrementally explain that to the people that have only grown up with a full-time connected internet. These people don't remember dial-up. These people, 25, 30-year-olds do not remember doing AOL dial-up because they didn't have to. And that's foreign to us because we remember that in the pains. So when we talk about, or we write articles, or when we try to bring people into, well, what do I do with Packet? Why do we have so many BPQ nodes that are one radio, one TNC, and an internet connection? Well, that's because that's what most of those people already understand. It's not that they don't want to, it's just that's what they understand. So that's where their level of understanding of what Packet would be. And this group, collectively amongst all of us, and we've got a lot of smart people, the RRI, Chuck, Glenn, Charles, we're bridging all this stuff to compensate for what does happen when the internet goes down and how can we move the traffic around. And I would encourage that anytime you're talking to people, anytime writing articles and all that stuff, and Glenn, this is going to throw a wrench into the article you've already written, we've got to bring the understanding from the current connected internet and cell phones and text messaging back to what we do and how it's going to be survivable and how we're going to route things. And then we need to understand too that the internet in and of itself is self-healing. So you'll have isolated outages, but the fact that if it's all going to go down worldwide the whole time is a very unlikely event and situation to happen. So, and that brings up an interesting point. I can give people telnet access into our network. One of the things that on the FlexNet side of things, there are some super nodes, so to speak, in the packet side that bridge all kinds of networks in Europe and everything like that. The FlexNet people, that's automatic connectivity, but there's wormholes into NetROM gateways and things like that, so you can manually jump around, hop around, get yourself connected to things that if they're down otherwise, you might, remember the days when we used to node hop on the packet network and find a wormhole that went from Long Island to Europe and everything like that? You would spend all night just trying to hop node to node and see how far you could go. That concept is so lost on the current internet generation. And to some extent, you can do the same thing on the Arden mesh networks and everything like that. Because we manually had to find our way around things, that's totally a foreign concept. And because they didn't do dial-up BBSs, they don't know command line and how to connect to some information source like we used to with CompuServe, the FidoNet, the AOL. That is a lost art because they don't have to anymore. But we've got a lot of people in this group. Since I started doing these conference calls with the EastNet group, when I signed on for EastNet, when Brian Rogers was still alive, it was hell or high water. It's FlexNet or nothing. And if you're not FlexNet, you're not shit. You're not going to be part of our network. I abandoned that concept. Look at how many people are here. Look how many smart people have put their heads together and bridged things. And it's phenomenal what we've been doing. And like I said, I just caution everybody that when you're trying to educate people, remember it's backwards compatibility from the current internet to us old guys.
Just to add to that, you were talking about node hopping. Remember the early days of email with what was colloquially called bang path addressing. The exclamation point was called bang. In the Unix days of Bell Labs, you had to know the route. So you would do, you would address me as Jim. No, sorry, the other way around. You would say system 1, exclamation point, system 2, exclamation point, system 3, exclamation point, my home system, whatever it is, exclamation point, Jim. And then there were some key nodes, UCB Berkeley was a big node. Alice at Bell Labs Murray Hill was a big node. And this was all done by telephone modem, 1200 baud telephone modem dial-up, and UUCP and UUX, Unix copy and Unix to Unix execute to send mail. But the user had to know the entire route for this email to take to get to the final addressee.
Absolutely, Jim. The same thing was on packet.
Yep.
And then if you were a packet operator and you knew all the bang routing, you had to know both systems to bridge it yourself or something. I see Misko put a question or a statement in the chat, and probably Glenn, and that's probably a good one for you to address and talk about the WinLink gateways and stuff like that. So thanks for that, Misko, and let's get somebody who's probably going to better qualify to answer a question like that than I am.
I can take that one on. So what I do here, Misko, is the internet side is certainly part of BPQ and the RMS server, but I actually wrote forwarding scripts for incoming messages to the RMS. If the internet's down, BPQ will then hold the message, and after a certain amount of time that's built into the forwarding script, I can actually forward that message up or down the network as needed to find a gateway that's connected to drop it in. But any messages that are created here, I send them out over RF. I don't send them out over internet unless that's the last resort. So I have three paths set up. One is HF, and it goes to Jeff's gateway in New York is the first try. And if that doesn't work, then I have two Vera FM gateways that I go to here locally. And then third is we'll go out to the normal CMS over the internet. So I try to do as much of the traffic moving RF first, but then, back it up with internet. Cause I the last thing we want to do is stall any traffic because we don't have a path to send it. So we have backups for the backups. Hope that it helps you with that.
Thanks, Glenn. Chuck, do you want to chime in on this one too? You're muted.
WinLink typically wants to go immediately to the internet if possible. And I've just recently installed PAT on Linux, and I can now use the Arden network to connect to a local RMS station to check into a WinLink net. But WinLink to me just immediately tries to get to the internet, and there's not much peer-to-peer messaging that I can see from where I'm at.
Oh,
that's it.
When you look at the overall network, like for WinLink, they are designed to be an RF gateway to an internet email server. They have multiples of them. At one point, they were physically located in like 8 different countries, but now everything is like in a cloud server. But that's their forte. They are an internet email service for people coming in on RF, which start off as SailDoc for the sailors on maritime frequencies, and then switched over to amateur radio. Okay, so even when you ask that question in the WinLink mailing list, they like rankle at the idea of everything going RF. They want something to come through their CMS server so they can keep track of it and forward it out to wherever it has to go. Now, it serves a purpose, fine, it's a tool. And it's like the old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Okay? What we're trying to do here is to make each of our systems flexible enough that it can handle any type of messaging in any kind of direction, RF as well as internet. Okay, if we can have it print out little strips of paper for carrier pigeons, we'll do that too. But I guess the underlying thought pattern here is redundancy and not have a single point of failure. I mean, we talked about this when Brian Rogers died. We don't want a single point of failure. That was a mess. So today, if we have alternate ways of moving stuff out and doing these different things, more power.
You know, and the interesting thing is, and again, I keep harping on the smart people that are in this EastNet group. I mean, yes, we've got people that are users, but we've got people that we know all these dissimilar systems. So if you still can use bang routing, we don't need everybody to have to know bang routing. We just have to give them an easy user interface. Somebody that was smart to figure out the bang routing or how to do the hierarchical routing. Because to try to teach everybody how to do all this stuff, it's impossible and you get nowhere. And as is evidenced by the BPQ network, where everybody's got a 6,000 node list, because all the first thing everybody wants to do when they first start is they connect to the internet and, hey, I want 60 forwarding partners, because they don't understand this concept. And, you know, the group on the BPQ is trying to, you know, get that down because people don't understand, hey, if somebody is on RF and they pull a nodes list, well, now there's 300 nodes that you're trying to send over a 1200 baud packet. It'll time out, and 70% of those nodes don't even work because of routing and persistence numbers and everything like that. But again, you know, as Charles mentioned, you know, Brian Rogers, he had a certain way of thinking, not that he was wrong, but it's not the only answer. And the beauty is that now we've got enough in this group. We're talking about the Delaware group that Glenn works with, and if you can get on their meetings when they do those, it's great. We've got RRI, we've got the TPRFN, we've got Arden Mesh. You know, Charles is doing the 44net gateway so that we can get more people using it, which enables everything that's IP based that we can put on the ham radio net. And Nisko, you can mute out because your microphone is just introducing you. But that's okay. Something's not configured right for you. But, you know, it is, you know, we've got access to WinLink. We've got access to the APRS system. You know, now you've got something else just like the HF room there. There we go.
No, we're hearing radio teletype, Nisko. It's your radio that's connected.
Your radio's connecting to your audio source on your Zoom. Just mute your
whoever is the host can go to the users list and mute him.
You got it. Yeah, we got him. That's okay. I try not to do that.
Yeah, I was trying not to do that. I have a question for you, Brian, when you get a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I ran across a couple of documents. This one is on NEDA, NEDA maps, Northeast Digital Association.
Yep, that was the precursor to EastNet.
Okay, it's October 3rd of 1994.
Yep.
And I have a November 14th of 1993.
Yep.
And it's a book full of maps for the packet system.
The old packet system, all the nodes and all the routes and everything. Yep.
Map 01 is Eastern Ontario, and it goes to map 28, which is New York City, Long Island.
Those are the days.
Yeah. We have those all maps, and most of those are digital on the net.
Okay, so you have all this information.
Yep.
I've been going through it that time. Sorry to say that I have to start cleaning out the house and you know, all the old files and everything. And I'm digitizing as much of the information as I think we should retain.
Send those to Charles.
whether we needed to retain this or do I just dispose of it?
There, Tad what is it? Tad Torborg. He has some old NIDA archives. KE2DW, I think is his call sign. But if you TAD Torborg and Packet Radio, if you search him, he's got some archives of the old scanned NIDA documents. And if he's got them on there, throw it out. If not, digitize it, send it to Charles and myself, and we'll do something with it.
Right. If you look at hamgate.amper.org, the documents link at the top of the page, you'll see that there are some NIDA documents from the mid-90s already there. So as Brian said, if it's already there, kill it. Otherwise, forward it to me and I'll include it on the website.
What's that? Hamgate what?
Hamgate.ampr.org.
Hamgate.ampr.org.
Right.
Okay. So if it's not there, I'll digitize it and send it to you.
Yep, that's good.
That's awesome. Great, Don. So let's open the floor to questions for people and stuff like that, because this has been a good meeting, and I'm sure there's probably some of the people who haven't been so deep in this all the years. They may have questions and wonder about concepts and things like that. So now's a good time to bring that up, because we made it through the first hour, and we normally go 2 hours, so we can talk about other things right now.
And what was that other place, Brian, you said to check? Ted something?
Tad Tor, I don't remember. Tad Torborg, Torborg, and I just Google him. And
yeah, I can do that. Okay, I got the name.
Tad,
thanks.
and if you read through those articles, his call sign and his name is in a lot of those books, because he was a big part of NIDA.
Yeah, it's probably in here, so I just want to know who to look for.
Yep. He's got some archives of a lot of that scanned packet radio stuff from the NIDA days too. In fact, he probably wrote all those documents at the time and published them. Those are probably those spiral bound ones you've got, right? Because they were pretty thick.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
They were great publications. That was how we got the information out before the internet and web pages. And and some of those old articles, that's why right now we can put FlexNet nodes up on XNet using the KISS method and using sound power or software modems on radios. Now the name escapes me. Boy, my brain is foggy this morning. What's the one we're using from the guy from Massachusetts? Direwolf. Now we can build a full node stack that does FlexNet and NetROM using Direwolf as sound modems and the KISS mode, because way back in one of those other articles, we didn't use KISS to interconnect nodes because the computing power wasn't there. But in the early 2000s, that was true. Then all of a sudden somebody said, well, some of these new computers, the 286s, the 386s, they've got the horsepower to do everything that we don't need the hardware TNCs anymore with the special proms burned in them. And Pat can chime in on this. We've been doing it. Jeff, KP3FT on the TPRFN, he runs a node where he's using Dell laptops, sound-powered or Direwolf modems, and it works. And it interconnects with the TPRFN with his BPQ. So the computing power with the old stuff, we can make it work now. It's exciting, but that's serious gearhead going to be bit bashing and programming software and stuff like that. So, which reminds me, I saw a piece of software. I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's called WhatsPac, WATSPAC. And WhatsPac is apparently a program that can bring, and I haven't looked at it yet, I just got that bookmark. It's wiki.oarc.uk/packet xrouter it's how to hook it up with xrouter. But this WhatsPac program might be an interesting thing to make a GUI to make packet use for a user more interesting. I just found this and I've got it bookmarked and haven't looked at it yet. But that's been one of those things that I've always wanted, for the modern era people that are used to GUI everything, this may be one of those ties that binds our networks that tend to be command line type use. This may be one of those things that somebody's done a lot of work that we can make work. In fact, I'll just put this right in the chat. I can do that. Copy and paste. QT sound modem can run 4 soft modems inside of 1 audio passband. They run it in a cheap laptop. That's pretty cool, Chuck. Yeah, again, people that are doing things successful, use the mailing list, the EastNet mailing list to throw these ideas out there. Don't wait for these calls because we only do these calls quarterly. And there's a lot of time in between that individuals can be communicating and experimenting with things. So, but the idea of a GUI-based software package to allow people to connect to the networks is going to be how we get more participation from end users and how to use things. Maybe this What's Pack is something that we can do that. We had looked at programs like Outpost as well. That was another one that was going to be useful. But again, get people thinking about how many times do we get people that say, well, I want to get into Packet. And then they hook it up and then they realize they've got a command line connect to everything to use the network and learn this archaic to them protocol. What's a nodes list? What's a destination list? How to even pull a help file? That is just so archaic, and people go, I don't want to do any of that. And then they lose interest. Like it or not, we're 25, 30 years into GUI everything. Especially you Linux folks that love to use V and command line everything. I know enough about Linux and can get around to be dangerous. I hate fucking command line and everything. It is archaic. Every time I have to go back and remember some DOS commands, my head hurts. And I see Pat laughing because he is a Unix guy. Chime in, please, Pat. Give me your input because it's the reality. No, I really want your input because you've dealt with a lot of these situations trying to get people and burning images and getting nodes stood up and everything like that. So you've got a lot of important input to this. Unmute, please.
Oh, I'll pass up on this. It's a long argument that's been ongoing ever since I started working. I'm retired now, so I don't deal with it.
But I mean, are we right in the fact that to get users on the Packet network, they expect GUI stuff? And
absolutely. The new guys in the radio clubs that I belong to, it's exactly like you said. They don't want to deal with command line. That's old school. If it's not a GUI, they're not going to touch it. So I agree with you. It would be nice if we had some kind of a GUI interface.
And if you look at examples like Craig out there in California and the DigiPi software, and he made that DigiPi thing on the little Raspberry Pis and Raspberry Pi Zeros. But what does it do? It can be its own Wi-Fi router, and you can connect to it with your cell phone, your tablet, and everything on an HTML web page. That's GUI, and people like that, and they use it because and Charles is cringing right now, and he's going to say, "Fuck that! They need to learn command line." I know that's what he's saying. And
Nah.
That is not our reality.
I'm a little more flexible than that, Brian.
Well, that's good. You've mellowed out since you're not working.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I'm going to side with Chuck and everybody else. Give me an old editor like EX in Linux, command line type editor, and I can probably beat any of you using MS Word in updating and correcting documents.
Well, absolutely. But we're in the minority. And, the fact is we're trying to build systems that the average user would have to rely upon. And, people use what they're familiar with. Why, has Glenn had to make this APRS gateway? Well, APRS, all the software that's out there is GUI based. So it's got, APRS is the most inefficient digital network we've got. It's all UI connect or unconnected packets with some connected stuff when you route a message. I cringe when people are going to be trying to route emergency messages over the APRS network because there's so much packet collisions because it's non-connected. But it's what people know because there's GUI, and it's what we've got an established user base that knows how to do stuff. And even the APRS community is small compared to the ham radio community as a whole. But APRS users are huge compared to packet users because of GUIs. Go ahead, Glenn.
Excuse me.
So I have a couple people here locally that I've gotten up on packet and they're playing around and they've got BPQ running. But what we're doing here for them, instead of having to fully understand, command line, and I mean they understand SP, sending a private message, and they get all that. But listen, BPQ allows POP connections. So internally, on their internal network, I show them Thunderbird, and it's just like any other email program they use all day long, and they send their message, and depending on how they route it and what account they're using, it'll go to their BPQ node, and their node will connect all by itself, do its own forwarding in the background, and send that message out to the network. And there's a few guys here local that we're doing, and it gives them an interface, as you talk about, that they understand and know. And I certainly don't discourage them to learn the back end of BPQ and how to do it, manually. But to keep them from getting frustrated, we've been using that interface to help them come along.
That's a very interesting thing because Charles has done this as well, and I need to set a Thunderbird session up as well, because not only is it an email program you can pop and SMT, but Charles has set it up to also check the BBS to read all the bulletins.
That's right. Like use NNTP protocol.
Right. And then we've also got the chat that we can do on the chat nodes and that Charles runs.
Yeah, it's been very quiet every Tuesday night for the past month and a half. I'm the only one sitting there.
I was on there last week and you weren't there.
Yeah, what time did you finally show up? I dropped off at 10:30.
I was there at 10. I didn't see you.
Yeah, you dropped off too fast.
But these are the types of articles we've got to get out, just short little articles, and get those to Steve Stroh to get them into zero retries and stuff like that, because this is what we can get the user base up with. Yes, we're all, the serious gearheads of this, but, we've got to get the user base built up. So if we had, these how-to cookbooks with how to build things, and because even if someone wants to build their own node and wants to connect, they've got to be able to have something that they can teach their local user base, their local club to do this. For instance, last month at my radio club meeting, I took an Arden node. Actually, we've got one in the airport where we meet, and I connected with a browser, and I showed them all the services that we've got, all our FlightAware servers, all our, and he's not on here this week, Andrew, K1YMI, he's got a GOES station where he's doing full disk weather images and all this stuff. That's a server on the Arden mesh and everything like that, showing the chat programs, the weather stations and all that stuff. These people are starting to put Arden nodes up and even just doing tunnel connections just because they want to go and use the GUI, use their web browser, and look at the services that are available on the network. We got to give them something that's fun for them to do. And everybody's got their own little interests, but once you get them on there and can show them something simple to use as a user, they're hooked. And then, the ambition and the interest really grows. So, yeah, Glenn, Charles, showing people how to set up Thunderbird and how to read BBS messages and stuff like that. We might also get some new message content because we show them how to post a for sale posting or something. When's the last time anybody saw a for sale posting for equipment on a BBS?
About 10 years ago.
Yeah, and in the 90s, that's how we sold it. That was before, Craigslist, all that stuff, man. We bought and sold so much ham equipment over the BBS system on packet, it'll make your head spin.
Excuse me, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, please go. That's good now.
Wait a second. Okay, you can now see me too.
Yes.
I would like to comment a little bit. I didn't follow all the last part of your discussion about using GUI or command line, but I can only suggest for those of us who prefer to use command line, you can just install, for example, a BBS of the FBB kind. FBB kind of BBS can work excellently in the command line, and regardless you are the system operator or you are the end user. So no problem at all. In my club, I still have one old computer, Pentium 2 Celeron of generation that still works Debian, one older version of Debian Linux, and I installed there FBB version 9, I think, some older version, and it still works great in only in the command line, no GUI at all.
Yeah, that's a great point. And drop that link into the chat too, Misko.
Okay.
Look at this. We got some really good participation going this quarter. I like it.
One of the nice things I like about using the Thunderbird is not only able to, get my regular 10 different email accounts for all the different things that I do, but picking up the packet messages off the local BBS, which, what was it, about 2-3 years ago, Brian, when we finally were able to do IMAP simulation rather than POP3. This way the message stays on the BBS, even though I'm pulling it into the Thunderbird. VE4KLM, Myco. I just dropped him a message one day and said, hey, could we do this? And he's looking at a couple of things and said, yeah, we should have done this before. And we just changed the code and the thing just worked.
Put that out on the EastNet list. We really need to. Because I am sure that almost everybody said, well, I put a packet node up and nobody connects to it.
Yeah. But the Thunderbird, not like you said before, not only is it able to do the personal messages, but for the bulletins using NNTP protocol, but also has a built-in chat client.
Well, okay. So let's put out a cookbook: how to set up Thunderbird, how to connect to a BBS, how to move packet messages, personal messages, and also how to connect to chat. Those things right there. We've got to make a yellow covered book for that, right? An idiot's guide. Apple friendly, so to speak, right? So it gets through the ID10T codes.
I call it what it is. It's a dummies book.
Well, that's the other thing we're doing. You were talking about Golden Packet and Ron on the call here. He's big in that, and he and I have been going back and forth about how we could actually use our network in their purpose, because they were struggling to get all their sites filled this year, and I think they finally did, or maybe there's still one out there. But we're talking about doing a proof and concept of being able, if they needed to pass a message over a distance that they can't do with VHF, how we could populate it into our network, only because we're talking to them about it, but could be anywhere using HF. So we've been kicking around the ideas, and we haven't really come up with a solid plan yet. But again, it's just a matter of interconnecting one network to another, and how we can all help each other. And I think it's important that we get there somehow. And I think this group, we're definitely there. I know, I was rushing this morning because I realized that this is actually the week that the June PACNet's supposed to start, because I lost that first Sunday, which was the first, was hidden, and my count was off. So, one of the things that we're promoting this month is trying to get as many people to check in with RF, whether it's to the network, whether it's to your local person, node, whatever it is. I don't care how it routes through the back end and gets to me, as much as I do want people to use RF to send their traffic and to understand how to do it. And we offer up help. There's a link on there for getting help. And, that's the key is, we want folks to do it, but somehow we have to help them. And that's difficult to do and find time for all the time, but we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem is a lot of us are get into this and then the demand on our time because we're the expert. Now we've got so many people, train a replacement, train a mentor or something like that. And, especially when it comes to like showing somebody how to use, first of all, if we can show somebody the Thunderbird use, and Charles, if someone could record a video or something like that, what can I do with it? Because when they see it on the screen and just see a screen recording, that'll get them excited first. And then they'll want to do it, and then they'll ask the questions, and we can get some people trained how to help them set it up. I think that'll do a lot towards adding the users. Again, last month at our club meeting, when I took and connected my computer in the thing and put it up on the big TV screen and connected to the Arden node and showed people, oh, here's the nodes list, here's the services they offer. Hey, connect on that. Oh, this is a weather station. Oh, this is a camera, or this is flight radar 24 or something like that. When you can show them to do that, they get excited and then they go home and they send emails. How do I do that? I like that. That does a lot. And those are things that you can do presentations at your club meetings. If you can get people trained how to do that, how many club meetings do people go to? They're dying for content, for something cool to show them. And that is something that we could all do to increase the user base. Ron, since Glenn threw you under the bus, now I'm going to throw you under the bus. You need to chime in and comment about Golden Packet and what he was talking about, and throw some stuff out for the Golden Packet event.
Yeah, so I was gonna eventually, hopefully, get to that when it was brought up. But yeah, Golden Packet is. I think everybody understands it. You can go to atgoldenpacket.net if you want to look up some history on it. But event goes July 19th. I think it's the third Saturday of July. We've got somebody to man all 16 stations starting from Springer Mountain, Georgia to Mount Katahdin and Maine. And the idea is as I always say, packet radio is the OG of off-grid comms. I mean, or off-grid comms before off-grid comms were cool. So, that event's going on the 19th, and the idea, if you're not familiar with it, is to have a series 16 digipeaters configured on a Hop 77 Hop 77 to work autonomously. Set them up and the system should run. And idea is that in theory, every station's getting a packet from every other station, and the first station here's station 6 packets from station 16, and 16 here's packets from station 1, and then we know we've been successful. Over the years, we've tried 1200 baud, 9600 baud, and now if you go back to 2020, 2021, when Kenwood wasn't making the D710G anymore, or they stopped production, there's a group, especially up in the northern side of the trail, who started working with what they call the appliance, which is taking a Raspberry Pi. John Langner from Direwolf, he's part of the group and not part of the APRS Foundation, and he made some changes to Direwolf so it would be able to do all the stuff that the Kenwoods could do. So without having to spend a couple hundred, whatever they were, like $650 to $700 for a D710. You could get a Raspberry Pi. Don Rolfe, I believe, does all the images for them, but it's a lot of them do DigiRigs or something. But with that, they were able to what we call the appliance. So there's people running a D710G, and then people running a Raspberry Pi, whatever radio they through an interface that works. So. But yeah, that event's coming up here. We actually, one of the guys who normally partakes and operates in Maryland, he's not available, but he's with the balloon team in, I think in North Carolina. So they are going to launch a balloon not to be a digipeater. Well, it'll be a digipeater, but it's not going to digipede traffic on the network. It's going to take our packets, and then he's going to send them, digipede them on a separate frequency for his own iGate to gate the data. So he probably will be covering or being able to listen to maybe the first 9 or 10 stations. The balloon he said is going to be up to 100,000 feet.
Also, he's gonna basically replace the old couch potato, Lynn Deffenbaugh, who passed away this past year.
Yeah. So speaking of which, we don't actually have a couch potato, to support and listen. And the couch potato doesn't need, if anybody's interested in it. But what Lynn did was he would monitor the APRS traffic and be able to look and see who was listening, who was hearing who. He'd be able to identify if a station was misconfigured, and he'd be able to identify. If two stations weren't talking, he could get them both on a phone, and if they had cell phone coverage, and help do troubleshooting and things like that. So, you don't have to have the qualifications that Lynn had to be able to support it, but you can. And just looking for somebody who can monitor the APRS traffic, has a basic understanding, and can kind of watch the traffic and see it. We had talked with Steve White, but he doesn't know if he's available. He's the I'll call it the creator or maker of APRS.to, the site, similar to APRS.fi, but in my opinion, .to has a heck of a lot more data available to it, and you can see, the live connections when the station moves. It has a little wiggle to it or whatever. But anyway, so yeah. Right now we're planned. I've got 3 D710s. I just picked up 2 from a guy who was selling them. He had a whole bunch of them, and he's offering them up to the group. So I'm configuring one for a station we're replacing the Maryland. We think we're replacing Maryland Mountains with another station in Pennsylvania. It's called Big Flats Mountain. It's right on the Appalachian Trail on the top. It's got a parking lot. So I'm configuring 2 D710s in my basement. I'm going to test them out. And matter of fact, unless something changes, we're actually going to test the linkage, because it's a new link. We're going to test the link between Big Flats Mountain, which is I think south of Shippensburg or north of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, and I'll be up at Weiser Forest, which is the Route 501 shelter for the Appalachian Trail. And they're both right on the trail. So we're gonna set up antennas on the 19th. Since it's a federal holiday, I have off. I'm gonna drive up to Pennsylvania and try and set that link up. So we know it already works great from Weiser Forest, which is near Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, to Camelback. So we just need to make sure we're established, and we're not really concerned about White Rock to Big Flats, because they're both on the top of or on the side or whatever it is, but they basically have a direct line of sight for them, because they're going down. The whole thing is a valley going between those 2 points, so or lowland, so they don't have any other obstacles in it. But other than that, and then also the only other thing is if those of you who if you've known, the APRS Foundation's had a little bit of changes. Get a hold of APRS, take over, where Bob left off and stuff like that. And they asked me to move up to be, on their leadership team. So that's relatively new. So I'm trying to learn more about, I've always liked APRS, and like one of the things Glenn and I were talking about was that station in North Carolina that we may not have been able to reach. Could we set something up that would, take the VHF data from the third station, and then maybe do a 6-meter or HF link to go to station 6, because station 5 or something wasn't available. So right now it all looks like we're gonna be fully manned. But anyway, I'll turn it back over to you. I think it's Brian.
No, you've got some good stuff. So a couple of things, Ron, if you do go up to test that new site, if you get on the regular APRS frequency, and if you can hear W2RGI-1, that's one right here near me in Cooperstown. It's a real good site, and I know that it can see Equinox and Greylock direct. So if you can hear that, we could swap out Bovino with that site, and I've got access to the site. I could go up and put a radio on that antenna. it's a good high site and it's got a good antenna. So it could be put into service that weekend. Also, you mentioned the appliance. The appliance is actually a modified version of the DigiPi. And again, the appliance and the DigiPi, you can actually connect to it with Wi-Fi and use any web browser. So your cell phone, your tablet, or anything, you can have access as a user to a packet system that you're hooking to a radio and TNC. So the appliance, I actually run one in my vehicle all the time now because I built one probably 4 years ago now, and it's my permanent roaming mobile station, and it works well. And so yes, any feedback on that, Ron?
So are you talking about the actual appliance that they use during a Golden Packet event?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got two DigiPies ready to set up at the house. I've got them. I just need to connect them to a radio. But I know there was talk last year that the code in there didn't have everything. But even though it was Direwolf based, there was, I don't know if it was the UI flood, UI trace, or something. There were some parts that we have configured on the APRS, and that's what John Langer had made some changes to the Direwolf that we run. So
Right,
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same. You may be more familiar with it than I am.
No, so the appliance uses Direwolf as the TNC, and John
Yeah.
Lankler is there for the Direwolf. But the actual appliance is actually running a Raspberry Pi image of DigiPi, which has the Wi-Fi hotspot, the HTML serving, and all that stuff. Direwolf is just the modem that runs in that, and that's what John Lankler is going to do the UI flood with. So the DigiPi is a really interesting piece of software. You can go to the DigiPi website and everything like that, and look at what it's capable because it's capable of doing HF rig and all that stuff.
And it was funny when you were talking about the user interfaces. The first thing that came to my mind was Craig Lamparter and DigiPi, because for the most part you're using a GUI on a Windows or any web browser. So he's gone at least taken that step to make digital radio, all the digital modes, not having to, taking some of the commands that you normally have to do out of it, because you can do everything through most of everything through a browser.
Right. He's done the GUI, he's done part of the GUI stuff for a lot of things that we're talking about. So yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing that, the thing that it's weak on is the terrestrial packet stuff, the connected packet versus APRS. And that's just because he hasn't had the demand in the user base, but it'll run FL Digi, it'll run all that stuff. It's a pretty cool program in and of itself for the average end user that is expecting a GUI. It's actually a Linux-based thing on a Pi, but anybody with any operating system can connect to it, just like you can connect on the internet with a web browser. So it's an interesting piece of software, and it brings people into the fold for their interest in doing things. So
and I will say, I'm not on mute, am I?
Yeah.
No. I'd say one thing that what I'm trying to get with the Golden Packet is let's start finding new things to do with it, not just set up the 16 stations. All right, all 16 stations heard every 16 stations. All right, we're done for the day. Let's start doing something. And that's where I started talking with Glenn. Is is there a way? And I've been back and forth to which I'm still going to North Carolina, almost every weekend since November, and I have just not. And now we've shifted from, my father-in-law passed, and now we've shifted to, as I say, my wife and I have a new hobby because she's the executrix for 5 parcels of land, 2 trailers, 2 houses, 3 of them are rented. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to go through. So I was trying to hope to build something with Glenn that I would have a VHF to HF to do something with his network, but just not going to happen this year. But I still want to work on something. But we're trying to find different things, and just like you said with the our APRS Foundation, one of the things I said is we got to find a way to make it easy. some of the new radios coming out where you can use your iPad or you can use your phone or you can do all the configuration and send messages through APRS, using your phone, connected Bluetooth to the radio. That's getting some more interest, but it's a little bit different, and so we're getting people making some user interfaces or applications that are making it somewhat easier to get into APRS, and I'm assuming at some point Packet, because P and APRS is Packet.
Well, so Ron, one of the interesting things because I was around when Bob was alive and everything like that, and when he could conceptualize this golden packet, one of the things that he had as an idea, he had a bunch of dual port TNCs. All right.
Yeah, the 9612. He had somebody has them. Somebody mentioned that they have the 16 or the 15. They're out there somewhere.
Yeah, but the whole concept behind the golden packet and is being up on mountaintops and creating packet links to be able to cover population centers in the event of having to ad hoc build a network quickly. And so one of the things that when you're talking about uses is if you can, eventually get the foundation and the golden packet group, of which I'm on, obviously, I don't active on it because I've got my irons in too many fires. But the idea of having backbone links to user ports to cover population centers and be able to interconnect them via RF, that has been the whole concept around the golden packet from day one.
Absolutely.
The other concept was, the communications along the Appalachian Trail for the hikers was always limited. Cell phone coverage and everything like that was designed to have communications for anybody who was a ham and hiker along the Appalachian Trail so that they could always get help for themselves if there was ever an emergency.
Yep.
And so that's always the concept. So, and the APRS it's the APRS Foundation, and teaching people about, and that was in my agenda item when I mailed it out. A packet node is not just one radio, one TNC, and an internet connection. A lot of times it's two radios, two NCs. Most of the time it's three radios, three TNCs, because you're going to do a backbone link to one node that's distant from a high site. There's a user port, and then ideally you've also got another link, backbone link, a radio and TNC that's linking to somebody farther down the line, creating a link in some backbone connected networks, creating a string of pearls and making a network to replace the internet. And that's the concept. And last month when we had, or last quarter when we had Jason Roush, and he's got his RPC electronics company, he's actually made some pretty cool stuff to show you how to make a node stack pretty easily, where you can put multiple radios, multiple TNCs. He is using Direwolf and Nino TNCs, and he shows you how to get a cheap $20 power supply that's built for servers, and he makes a little adapter you can put on it, put power pole connectors so you can power up all these radios, all these TNCs, all in one little nice little cabinet that you can build, and you can actually build a node stack. So these are concepts to do this, because with the TPRFN network we're using HF, but that's not full-time permanent connections. We've got a shared resource on the HF and everything like that. The old NITA network that we're talking about, the old packet network before the internet, that's all it was. We had a packet radio network that was from Ohio up to Maine, that we had all volunteers, all mountaintops. We set up standardized parameters where we are multiple radios, multiple TNCs talking and building networks. These types of long haul networks with the IP400 that Steve's talking about, zero retries, we're talking about bringing high speed to the UHF frequencies so that we can make these long links that you can't do on the microwave frequencies and the unlicensed bands. These are things that we're all these different groups that we all belong to, we're all coming together now. And the GUIs for the end users, to get them to use it and exercise the network so that they could use them in emergencies, is what is the next step that we've got to do. And so everything that we can do that can take the people who aren't the gearheads, that don't know how to put software together, don't know how to spend the time to make dissimilar networks communicate with each other, that's the next step, and the importance and what we can do that you can take to your club meeting that you can show them, oh, this is how I use my cell phone. Oh, I've got to do this work to set up my house and just leave it running so I can be a user on the packet network and I can sit in my easy chair while I'm watching TV. Yes, that's the next step. And there are multiple systems that we can do that with. And I just, I think we're at that stage that we can now start developing that for the end users to get that going on.
Yeah, and I'm the guy who needs the GUI. I'm the non-technical guy. I mean, I've been on the phone with Glenn and he'll walk me through, and I have little bit basics of Linux and command and that kind of stuff. But I love this stuff, and I want to see I want to be able to use it, and how do we get more people interested in it? How do we make it easier to use? So I'm all for that. So that's why I've joined all these groups.
I pick on you, Ron, because I was the one who used to have to put the pictures on the mailing list for the packet, the golden packet. Yeah. So yeah, that's good, and I'm glad you're here. And congrats to getting on the APRS Foundation. That makes me feel more comfortable that that's going to survive longer term. Good, congratulations.
Thanks. So anyway, I'm going to go back on mute unless anybody has any more questions about the golden packet or anything.
Excellent. So let's open the floor for more questions and more comments, because we've data dumped a lot here to cause a lot of people to have to think.
Well, we haven't heard from Antonio yet.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I was going to do that. Antonio, welcome. One of the things while you're on mute, you don't have your call sign on your screen name. So, and then if you could put your name, call sign, and where you're from in the chat for Don for the meeting minutes, that would be great. So Antonio, you came in late, but welcome. Unmute, introduce yourself, and tell us why you're here and what you've been listening to while you've been on the call, and any questions you have. You're muted, Antonio. We must have lost him, or he must be having to deal with something else. Thanks for reminding me of that, Charles, because I was looking at that and realizing I needed to ask him. Chuck, with all these comments, you got any other fill-ins and everything like that? This call, we've got some serious powerhouse people in the digital communications community and amateur radio in the United States and worldwide, by extension. This is what I envisioned the EastNet to morph into a number of years ago when I took on the responsibilities as president. I can't thank everybody here over the years for their help and their diligence and their not little, but their efforts to go into things like, Arden Mesh, TPRFN, radio relay, ham gates, and of course now the golden packets involved in the meetings too. We've got some cool stuff going on. I don't think you people, we have Steve Stroh normally participates from the Zero Retries. He helps to be one of our communications medium to get the word out.
Brian, I've got a question and a comment if you want.
Go ahead.
The comment is, with all this discussion of GUI, I don't think very many people utilize it, but the BPQ system does have a web interface where you can, using the web interface, read your mail. Using the web interface, you can create outbound messages and so on. One can expose that web interface to the outside world, either on the 44net or on the Wild West untamed internet. But you can easily use it within your home network. If you have your own BPQ system down in the shack, you can do the armchair on your iPhone or a laptop using a web browser. So that exists today in BPQ, although not very many people utilize it or configure it.
No, that's an excellent point, Jim. Because of that web interface, That is why BPQ is probably one of the most popular node softwares for the people that are into Packet, because they don't have to command line quite as much. If you monitor the BPQ support list, everybody's talking about, oh, on the web page, or when I do the web, I'm trying to do my forwarding, and that's how they do that stuff.
Yeah,
So
they set up the forwarding there. You can use. I don't. I edit the config files, but you can edit all your config files and so on through the web interface as well.
And that's how most BPQ node operators set up and get into building a node. And that's why we've got all this internet only, one radio, one TNC, because of that GUI. That's an excellent point. I thought about that earlier and forgot about it. So thanks for bringing that up, Jim, because again, not everybody's going to be a command line basher. And, it's such a small minority. And, and we're not going to get users on the networks that we're building to help people out because of the lack of GUI. And that's our reality.
Can I bring up something?
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
One of the problems I have with BBQ, and this is just my opinion only, is the documentation. And I've been tempted to bring this up on the BBQ mailing list, but I don't want to get yelled at.
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
But it would be nice if all the BPQ guys would upload helpful tutorials on how to do stuff. And you could have a common place where you could go and look it up and learn how to do it. But that's just my opinion.
No, that is seriously, it's always been the problem with Packet is there's this lack of good quality documentation. Charles, on many occasions, and he'll stir the pot on the BPQ list as well as all the Packet groups about node quality settings and all that stuff to try to get these BPQ lists down from 300 nodes that they're supposedly able to connect to that they really can't. And because there's some bad information on the internet, that is a very real thing, Alan. And look, all the smart guys that want to go put all this software together and make it work and code it and everything like that, like John Weisman and everything like that, the thing that they don't ever like to do is make good documentation, especially good documentation for people who don't have any idea what they're doing, and have a good step-by-step document, a yellow covered book, so to speak, with screenshots and everything. And that's why people like GUIs, because, not only do most people have to learn how to, the whole hierarchical setups and how packet networks work and all that stuff, now all of a sudden they've got to use text editors for command line stuff. It's just overwhelming. Again, incremental learning. You get people started, get people going with something, they get comfortable with that, then they move on to the next stage. Incremental learning. I'm going to say this 1,000 times over because that's how humans learn.
And I think one of the problems with software developers, Brian, is that they're constantly making changes and always putting off, well, I'll update the documentation once I got this working. And they're doing their incremental changes to the software and never go back to the documentation.
Absolutely. Because I have a company that I run and I've got two partners that are software coding, and that's exactly a real problem. One of the things that we've discovered is like Claude and Grok and Super Grok. If you feed the code to it, they're doing really good jobs of generating documentation. We have one of our softwares that we've designed, and we fed it to Grok, and we asked it to produce documentation to the open API standards. And man, it kicked out some great documentation, and we've published that to all of our customers, and they like it. And so that's a great use of AI to start producing documentation.
As long as somebody proofreads it, but
yes,
to beyond Charles's point about updates, the other thing to realize is that BPQ is absolutely non-trivial. I mean, this thing can do so much stuff. It is sort of like saying, give me documentation for Linux. I mean, it's volumes and volumes, and that's the problem with BPQ. It depends on what you're going to do. I am very knowledgeable about how to do things for passing traffic. I am not at all familiar with how to set up APRS in BPQ because I've never done that and never needed to do that. I am still kind of mediocre at dealing with the hierarchical addresses because I don't use that with what I do in do with RRI radiograms. So there's just so many dimensions of BPQ that it's tough to put something together that kind of talks about all of it.
You know, that's an excellent point, Jim. And that's where writing these articles on particular use cases, because again, the incremental learning, you're right. There's so much in there. Yeah, you can produce documentation, but if somebody can take like, oh, Jim, if you can take, here's how we use BPQ to service the RRI network, the DTN. You know, it's just one case, and then you're a noise filter at that point because BPQ can do so much. But somebody that might like BPQ, and Glenn, that's where I was talking about. How do you use the TPRFN with the APRS messaging thing because of the gateways? So you've unmuted, so I'm sure you've got something to say. Go ahead.
Well, no, there's two things, and not to discourage Alan in any way, but what I find out, especially as we, as far as documentation goes and instruction and things like that, it's quite amazing when you spend a little time, try to put a document together, try to send stuff out, and guys don't want to take the time to read it or don't follow it correctly. And it becomes frustrating, but I'm going to put a link in chat that where the BPQ documentation is. Let me send that. And there's a lot there. And there, to Jim's point, there's so much that BPQ does that, having a piece of document that explains it all is pretty difficult to do. But it's hard, and I get where Alan's coming from because I'm that way with Linux. You can ask Charles. We've been like 6 years now trying to get 44net to work here at my house, and it's still not working. And it really is a basic, getting through the command line and getting things working. I'm sure if I sat down and spent a couple of straight hours with no distractions with his help, I know that it can work and would work.
Just let me know when.
Yeah, I know. And that's the only thing that I'm really missing here. I mean, we have Arden, we got IP, we got everything else except 44net. But it's
I would encourage you
a hard thing.
I would encourage you to put a microchip gateway using the gateways. It's much
well, and I have two of them sitting here. I got one on Arden, and I got a one that I take camping on Arden, and I got a brand new one in a box. So it's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. But
the problem with most people with 44net is that so many of the ISPs strip the protocol for the IP NCAP file. And that's where basically we create VPN tunnels back to the gateway servers that Charles has set up and others. And that gets around that problem of the ISP stripping the protocol 4 out. And that's because they stripped protocol 4 because Windows fucked up back in the day and they used protocol 4 for something else. And it's just been a problem that's a legacy problem that was created by Bill Gates, to be blunt. So I would highly recommend you go that route. That's what I finally did. And all my IP and cap file problems went away. Again, everybody keeps saying the documentation's there and it is overwhelming. This is one of the things that I've said for years in my mapping and GIS work that I do commercially, is that the world is full of data and it's like white noise. You've got to talk to your audience of who wants to know something, and you become what I consider a noise filter. I take a lot of data and I create a couple of maps that somebody can see the concept of the data they have particular interest in. And the same thing about the documentation. Being able to write an article about, oh, here's how the TPRFN, when you can connect via RF, here's how you can send an emergency message. We can send it out over the APRS gateway network to the rest of the world. If you're stuck and you want to send an emergency message beacon out and somebody's going to come looking for you, this is what you would do. Make one little article about that. That becomes a noise filter because there's so much shit out there. And you're right, it's a full-time job. And this is a hobby, and the rest of us have to make a living and pay for our existence. And sometimes, and the idea of using the Thunderbird as a mailbox news reader and all that stuff, that'll be a great little article to get users on these systems. Um, Again, it's the incremental learning. It's like, I've only got so much bandwidth to learn a few things. Please just give me the cliff notes on what I want to do. And Jim, I think that's what you're saying that you've done with RRI. Glenn, you've got many examples of that. And Alan, to your point about holy crap, look at all the documentation on BPQ that can do, but drinking from a 5-inch fire hose. I just want to know how to forward my messages to my neighbor. Where do I find that, right? Or I just want to put an APRS gateway on my packet BBS.
Thanks. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to know how to forward messages to my forwarding partner, and I can't find anything on how to do it. I've gone to the developer's software page where he has excellent documentation, but it doesn't go into the details. I mean,
Charles is on this call. He's got good documentation. He can help you with that. The hierarchical messaging and how many partners you should have and what the network are. Charles can, and now that he's retired, you can probably get on a nice phone call with him and learn quite a bit.
My wife says since I retired at the end of 2024 that I put in more time, whether it's my own trading account or helping people who call on the phone, that is more like a job.
Yeah,
well, I think we can all say that. I'm far busier now that I've been retired. And let me join everyone else. If again, my expertise is in traffic handling, but RRI is always looking for more hub operators. I would love to have another hub, a backup hub operator, HF hub operator using BPQ in every call area, and we don't. We're a little thin. So I would be happy to mentor anybody who's interested in that or help somebody learn more about becoming an RRI, digital traffic network hub operator.
Alan, there's another one for you.
I don't know if you're a traffic handler, Alan, or not, if you're trying to do personal messages or traffic.
Well, I would kind of like to get involved in traffic handling. However, at this time, I just don't have HF interest. I just want to stick to VHF, maybe UHF later. I have some excellent gear, but I'm just not interested at this time. But anyhow, that's the situation here.
Now, Alan, I'm glad that you have expressed your frustrations because we like to have people like that are frustrated, and that's why they join these calls because they're trying to find somebody to learn from. So this is exactly the type of stuff we recommend. There's the EastNet mailing list. Obviously, hopefully you were on that. That's how you found out about this call. You can connect with people and communicate and get some throughput. And we're trying to get more and more people on this group to understand that when we're bringing the people that are just starting out, we've got to not shove that 5-inch fire hose down their throat and not drown them, and get them started and get them going and not have them have a bad experience and get overwhelmed too easily.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And by the way, I really appreciate you guys, and I'm learning a lot just by being here.
Good. We try to do that. Sometimes I get a little out of control because I can get thumping my shoe on the table and stuff like that, and everybody chuckles when I say something like that, especially the people that work for me, because I get like that at work a lot. Ted's laughing.
All right, I just put my contact info in the chat. So if anybody needs to get a hold of me, there it is.
Charles, thank you for being such a good resource for everybody. Yeah, you've helped so many people. It's awesome.
Brian, one thing I've always held to, which I recommend to everybody, is that when you learn something, teach it to somebody else. It'll reinforce it in your brain, and you've spread the knowledge. And that's all I've done over the years. I've learned something, I've asked questions, I've played with it, I've stayed up late at night, and then I just share it. I've taught amateur radio classes, I've taught communications and boating safety with the Coast Guard, and same thing with this stuff. Just share the information.
And we appreciate it. That's the spirit of being an Elmer.
Yep, I have the plaid shirts. I just haven't had to put suspenders on yet.
So we're 2 hours into this. This is another good meeting. I was kind of worried on Thursday night going, oh, I don't know if I got a good agenda to fill up the time and keep everybody interested. So I think I, you know, yeah, again, all of our power users really contributed a lot this meeting, and I appreciate you all. Do we have any other questions or anything like that? I think we ought to wrap it up because it's Saturday morning and people probably got a lot of other things on their honeydew list that is not ham related.
And the parade starts at 12 o'clock down in DC.
Is it going to rain on it?
Doesn't matter.
Good. Ted, you're muted, so we're not hearing you. Unmute, Ted. Ted, you're still muted. Your space bar probably take care of it.
Ted, hold down the space bar like a PTT and talk.
There you go. Hold it down.
Okay, now I got it. Okay. Brian, great meeting. Did a great job. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good job.
I just lead the circus and the monkeys. I leave everybody else. That's all.
Okay. I see that Pat has left. I don't see him on the screen anymore.
Yeah, he dropped me a personal message. He had to leave for a family commitment. So
okay. We've been trying to get a hold of Bill at Putnam, New York.
Yep.
We have not had any success. Might you try an email to Bill and see if he's been okay and if we can contact him?
What do you need from him so I can be a little more succinct with the
Pat has been trying to communicate with Bill to get him to turn the 220 radio frequency to a different frequency.
Okay. I'll reach out to him.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted.
7-3 is all.
All right. Anybody else got any final words for the meeting or any suggestions?
I just got two things, Brian.
Okay.
All right. One, it's just a reminder that the packet net, this month's packet net starts tonight or tomorrow morning, however you look at it. Sometimes we get some EastNet users that check in, but lately there hasn't been a lot. And then secondly, I don't know if everybody's seen the guys that are speaking of interfaces, the guys that are iPhone people. George is over in Hawaii who made the iPhone app radio mail that does WinLink on the iPad or iPhone, has now came out with Packet Commander, it's called, and it's an interface for the iPhone that Bluetooths to a the what you call it TNC's the MobiLink, and with an HT in most of the areas around here, I can connect back over RF from an HT to my node here at home and do everything you need to do. So it's a pretty nice little interface for anybody that's iPhone and
I don't know. I've seen that on Zero Retries, so just suggest that to Steve. Is a Zero Retries interesting?
Yeah, I think it's on. It was. Yeah, he mentioned it this week.
Okay, I haven't had a chance this week's yet.
Yeah, he mentioned it in this week's
good
message. But I've been testing it with them. I'm on his beta testing group, and it works pretty good. So it's just everybody's always wanted to be able to do packet over, with an iPhone, and there was never anything that really worked. So this works good.
That could be an important includer to getting people on our network. So that's good information. Yep. Thanks, Glenn. That's a good one. What else you got? You said you had two things?
Nope, that's it. No, just the packet net this week starting.
Okay,
so
right. Okay.
Love to see some more check-ins. We're averaging around 90 in a week. So some of those are duplicates and triplicates because you get counted for every mode you use to check in, but nevertheless, it's doing pretty well.
Hey, one of the things about your announcements and your updates it would probably get more traction if you sent a picture of your map at the results of each net. Pictures are
I
worth.
send the link to the maps.
No, you got to send the picture in the message.
Yeah.
People are fucking stupid. I get it. I always send pictures to things to get people's attention, even though I give them a link to it. Because we have a lot of videos out for our software. And if people jump away from the video in 6 to 8 seconds. So again, you've got to get their attention so quick if it's something that interests them to draw them in. It's just a reality of the world.
Gotcha. Appreciate the advice.
Excellent. Outstanding, everybody. What a great meeting.